Welcome to Having Fun Inside with Glitter Gal Allison. This is a show on channel 32 where every day I take you into another adventure with living inside with Allison. Yesterday we learned how to embroider a new project. We're going to figure out at some point how to add sequins to all of those fun crafts. But today we're going to work on a cooking tutorial. One thing that I think is important for every home cook is to start with a clean surface. So let's do the very first thing and take care of all these dishes and clean up our space. Okay, now we have a clean surface to work with. It's always important for me to feel like I'm ready to cook. Also important, make sure that you have your hair up because no one wants your hair in their food. So do a little twist. Make sure you use a cute little velvet scrunchie. Extra bonus points if it matches your lipstick. And get your hair up. When you're talking about hair, it's also important to feel like you're doing something fun and cooking. So sometimes it's great to, have a different outfit. So give me a second. And now we are ready to start in earnest. But since we have now put up your hair, so you touched your hair, which is not the cleanest thing in the world for me, since I don't shower all the time, and you went upstairs and you rummaged in your closet to get your best creative 80s blazer. People remember this blazer from the episode where I showed my favorite DIYs, like cutting out shoulder pads from big ol' vintage outfits. Very easy, very cool, always great. So now I need to wash my hands. Make sure it's not going to be too hot, and then sing a song. So the recipe that we're going to do today is a play on my curried chickpea salad. It's a recipe that I stole from, or borrowed from my twin sister Ashley, because I love it and it's super easy to make. I think it's really perfect for taking to a couple trivia nights. It's great to bring to a friend's house because it's not something that you have to worry about being kept warm. Crackers always make everything better. So I think it's a great recipe to do. Also, you can make a lot and it lasts a long time. So let's pull together all the things that we need. Welcome back, Glitter Gal pals, and let's go over what you need to have in order to make this really delicious and healthy chickpea salad. And I keep on calling it chickpea salad because that's what I like to call it, but it's also the same thing as garbanzo beans. Here's what you need. If you do not have chickpeas or garbanzo beans when you got back from the store, feel free to connect with some friends. I borrowed this can from Glitter Gal Laura, who is a real friend. Here is some carrots. You can do this with the larger carrots, but I think this makes it even easier to use the ones that are already in matchsticks. Celery. We want some mayonnaise. Some pickles, which is not a part of the original recipe, but what I like to add in. Sunflower seeds, cranberries, and then your array of spices. So, some salt, some onion powder, garlic powder. Do put a little bit of cayenne pepper in there because I am a bit of a heat seeker. And then your good old curry pepper and some old-fashioned regular black pepper. It's also really important to wait until you're super hungry to start doing this video. So take a break, make yourself a snack. Okay, make sure you eat at least one cheese and cracker while listening at the door of the basement while your boyfriend is on a Zoom call with his old Frisbee friends because it's very, very adorable to hear him. And eavesdropping is always cool. Another really important thing to have during this process is a beer. So go open yourself up a beer. Also, make sure you drop some cracker crumbs somehow right into the opening of your beer can. So now I need everyone to take a break. Realize that they're not wearing anything sparkly. Go change, go blow your nose, and wash your hands again. But now that I've done that, we're kind of really actually ready to start making the recipe. The first thing to do is to drain your garbanzo beans. You can actually save the remaining liquid to make an actual a meringue out of that chickpea liquid, but I'm not going to do that because that's not something I do. So here are the tools that you actually need. You can really do all of this with just a cutting board, a knife, and a big spoon. But I also like to do part of it in a food processor. So that's where I will use, put the beans in to kind of like lightly pulse it. And then I will also be adding in my carrots and my celery into that process. You also need a koozie that you won at Parched Giving for telling a joke. That's important. And your snack cheese, it can just hang out on the cutting board. It's not going to bother anything. So now that the chickpeas are washed and rinsed off, you can now put them into my food processor. All that you'll need to do here is do a couple quick little pulses, because again, you really don't want this to get too chopped up. It just should be most of them kind of cut up at least once. Some whole ones remaining is actually good for texture. I have done this too much before and had to add in a whole other can just to even out the texture. And again, you can actually just do this with it just in the bowl and use a heavy metal spoon and kind of crush some up. But I do find it's easier to actually just pulse it a few times. Yeah. That is probably good. So the first thing that I do, pull that out. Up. There you go. And you don't need to worry about scraping the sides of this yet, because we're going to add a few more things to this. And now I'll be a little bit honest and say, I think I pulsed that too much. And a lot of times I'm making this in batches that have at least 2 cans, because I'm bringing it to a friend's house or an event. But this is just one little can, because it's just going to be for me and Sean. So we'll see how the ratios go. I really do not have an actual recipe for this. Let's get this guy out. And it's just kind of following your heart. So let's put this back in. Let's shut this guy up. Drink break. Cheers, Jessie. All day IPA. It's really good. Okay, back to work. For the next step is rinsing these celery hearts out. And I will probably use maybe 3 actual sticks. It is really important to wash these really well, as dirt can get in between the layers, and no one wants dirt grit in their chickpea salad. Okay, so I ended up going with 4, just because it has a lot of white parts here, and also the ends are kind of a little mangled, so I'm going to cut those off, even though I know it probably won't impact the actual finished product, because the celery isn't really adding a lot of flavor. It's really just there for the crunch. So now I'm going to start, I do thin, kind of like julienne pieces of the celery, but then I do put it into the food processor for a quick pulse. Okay, so I'm going to cut off all of the tips that I do not want, all kind of different sizes. Put that into my waste pile. And now I'm also going to get rid of a lot of this white. I'm sorry if I'm wasting food. And now I take each of these and I go once down the middle. And then from there, I do one here. And I do one more. And then I line them up together. Like that. And do little tices. Some of them go crazy and go everywhere. And I'm making them pretty small, so I won't need to pulse them very much in the food processor. I mean, you really don't have to do this step at all to put it in the food processor, but I just don't super love. Again, imagine if I had two hands. It really does make it easy. Plop. Now it's time to finish your last cheese and crackers. Now back to cooking. Now we have all of the celery here. I'm going to close it up and I'm going to pulse it. So we are almost ready to get mixing, but I have one more thing that I like to add to my recipe, and that is pickles. Jessie, you can skip this, but as all my fans know, one of my catchphrases is that I am a pickle freak. So I'm gonna add some pickles. It's important for the process to eat one first. So I got two of the big boys out, and I'm going to quickly dice it up. Okay, I'm going to scoop up this delicious mush of pickles and toss it into our bowl. So I would not put this in the food processor because it would just turn it into mush. A delicious, delicious pickle mush. I do not follow any recipes for this. I like to use just really the amount of mayonnaise that will make it spread really easily. This is another time to use your spatula that you use to scrape out the carrots from the food processor. And then I add a dash of salt, curry, all the things. So let me see if I can figure out how to film this. Okay, let's see how this goes. I'm gonna add a little bit, sorry for this sound, just a little bit of that, a little bit of mayonnaise. I'm going to add a little dash of salt. Again, I'm going to get some onion powder out. That was probably too much. But it smells so good. I love onion powder. I think it's underrated. Garlic powder, again, great. I just add a tad cayenne pepper. I just think it kind of creates some good layers. Other people also use a little bit of mustard. I usually skip that, but it's supposed to add like a layer of flavor. I have just a tiny bit left of this curry powder, so I will probably use almost all of it. Tend to use a lot because again, this is all supposed to be about that curry chickpea. So first thing to do is see how well this mixes. It's probably gonna be a gross sound. It smells really great. I think it's great. So again, we're gonna keep stirring. I like to add the cranberries and some of the sunflower seeds at the end. Before you serve it to a group, it's also kind of fun to put more sunflower seeds and cranberries on top as a garnish because it does make it look prettier. This is, even though we do have some green stuff in here, it's a pretty beige dish. So I'm gonna add a couple little handfuls of that sunflower seeds, and we love having sunflower seeds here because it really does add a nice crunch to salads. Because salads suck, and sometimes you just need to add something that makes it better. Add in just a bit cranberries. I don't super love cranberries most of the time. I think they're a little bit too like overwhelming of a dish. Well, to add to a dish, sometimes it just makes it more so cranberry. It takes it over. But just a little bit can really bring out some sweetness and add a little bit of tang. We've got a couple of them that are kind of stuck together. Let's see if we can put those, take them apart. Yeah. Now is the time to taste it. An important thing to do, if you are making this for your friends, when you're using your tasting spoon, you have to change them out every time. You know, we're all stuck inside, so this is really just for me and Sean. So, who cares? It's good. You can definitely tell the curry. I might add a little bit more salt to it. You do get that little hint of cayenne pepper at the end. But it's also just a bit too dry. So I'm going to add a little bit more of mayonnaise, a little bit more of salt, and also some more curry powder, because that's just the theme of the dish. Okay, it is time to do the second tasting test. I know that I mentioned how much I love saltines earlier, but for this type of dip, I really think just a Ritz cracker really fits it really well. But it's also important if you're ever doing a dip or something that is meant to be served with a cracker, to do the taste test with the actual cracker, because it can kind of add a bit to it, or I don't know, show that something doesn't really fit together. So try it. And there you have it, how to make an easy, delicious vegetarian dip. I love this for lunch. Again, I love to bring it to parties. It's really easy. It's not something you have to worry about. So that's another episode of Having Fun Inside with your little gal, Allison. But it's also important to do other things. So let's end the episode like we do every week by having some fun outside. It's time for beer with my guy outside. And look, he's already here and he has the chickpeas. How is it?
So good.
All right. Cheers.